Hi, how are you guys? Hope you're doing well. Welcome back to Unlock Jenkins Pipeline Secret series. In the last discussion, we successfully completed how to work with the global environment variables. I mean, if you want to access variable across the multiple jobs, you try to use global environment variables using git DSL statement. So that is the first type to use the environment variables. Now, in this part, we'll discuss how to configure our variables at the specific job level. So, in the specific job level, we are trying to define variables at the pipeline level only. Pipe level only. Pipeline only in the sense pipeline level. In the sense here, global variables. Again, I'm repeating accessing the variable across multiple jobs. If you want to do it, we need to use Jenkins environment variables. There is a configure system, right? In the configure system, you need to create variables. But this is not multiple job, it's a single job. In a single job, we have different sections, right? Global level, and stage level, and script level. Here, I want to introduce how to clone our public repository, how to clone public repository from the GitHub. To work with that scenario, I want to define my variables at the global level in a single job. I'm not taking multiple jobs. Here, understand the key point. In the previous step, we use configure system. Now, in this, we are going to concentrate on how to define variable within the single job. So, in order to implement, I want to demonstrate how to clone the code from the public repository. And also, if I want to clone my public repository, I want to I want to integrate the global variables as well as I want to declare local variables in the declarative pipeline. So no need to confuse, just very straightforward. How to clone the public repository? The first. If I want to clone the public repository, we have various statements. In the previous one, we introduced a get. Now you can also use a checkout DSL statement. When I use a checkout DSL statement, I want to interpolate variables in a different way compared with the first technique. So when I want to clone my public repository, how to use these local variables and why we are introducing the string data type and how you declare the local variables inside the script section we will discuss. Agenda is very simple. How to define variable at the job level while interacting with the job level. How to check out the code from the repository using checkout DSL stage. So there, how to declare a global variables and how we conveniently use the local variables inside the script level and how to initialize those variables. We'll see. So let us go back to our Jenkins. So go to the dashboard, click on the new item, and I'm trying to give like a clone code from the repository. Suppose clone a code from public repo is the name of the job. Just go and click on the pipeline. Go on OK. So what is our agenda? Our agenda is cloning the code from repository, but that is not the main agenda. We are working on how to interact with, how to access our variables from the Jenkins. We have different ways. The first technique we all discussed, configure the system, global variables. Second one is the job level. So within the job in the sense, my job name is what? This is clone a code from the public repository. In this job, you have a different sections, right? Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 script sections. I'm not defining the variable within the stage. I want to define a variable within the pipeline level. So how can I first of all try to start opening the pipeline keyword, and I'm trying to use the agent. So uh, in order to work on available agent. Now there is an environment directive. See, in the previous example also we use environment directive. Environment directive is a predefined directive able to allow the how to initialize our variables. Variables are variables are used to store our values, right? So in this current example, our values are what? So get underscore repo underscore URL. This is my variable. The variable value is the repository. So I'm going to copy my HTTPS public HTTPS. It means I want to clone the repository using HTTPS protocol. Copy this and going to paste. So whether you can give it a single quote or double quote. What is the differences between a single quote and double quote? We'll discuss later in the groovy scripting. So this is my one variable. Second one is I can say the branch name. Uh, branch name. Branch underscore name is equal to main. This is my name of the branch. So git underscore repo URL and branch name are the global variable for this specific job. Okay, once I define the once I define the environment, you try to open the stages. Within the stages, write down the stage. My stage name is a clone repo I'm giving. So clone a public repo. In the next recorded session, I will explain you how to clone the private repository. That is most interesting one I will discuss. So now within the stage, I want to define the steps. Within the steps, why I'm going to use the steps to perform the action. If you want to perform the action, we can strictly use the checkout or git or clone commands, whatever the commands supported. But within the step section, I want to access these two variables. And we already demonstrated in the first video, environment variables are completely accessible for the pipeline level as well as stage level. If you want to access such variables inside the step section, I have to open the script block. Within the script block, you can strictly use a checkout statement. How to use a checkout statement? Go to the snippet generator. There is a checkout DSL statement. Select this DSL statement, checkout from the version controlling. So what is the version controlling? I'm going to use get. And what is our repository? What is our repository? Our repository is this one. Okay. Now, just I want to define my branch call as a main, not master. Just scroll down and generates the pipeline script. So observe very carefully. Checkout is a bit complex statement. Sometimes the interviewers may ask looking at. So here there are three arguments. Checkout is a DSL statement. It calls a function called a SCM get. This SCM get function requires branches. One of the branch called as a main. The main is a value which is associated to the key called as a name. Actually, if I speak more technically, I should explain key value pair. Key value pair. That's why don't dig into the uh, different types of data types like a key value like a maps, list, or whether it is ranges. We'll discuss. That's why data type is very, very important. So many things come into the picture, right? But understand class. The first class is called as SCM get, called git SCM. This is a class which tells you are using git as a source code controlling system, so that you are going to checking out the code from the repository. So which branch? Main branch. So what is the URL we are going to pointing? That's called user remote config. Technically, URL and value. This is called key and value. So in the Jenkins, if you define a name and key and value pair, see, this is called key value. And if you come down here, this is called key and that is called value. So how you define a key value pair in the groovy? It's called map data type. That's why I don't want to confuse you now. Once you finish this series, next I will immediately explain what are the different data types. Just understand. So copy this DSL statement, go to the script section, the paste. Okay, but here you need to replace because branch name is the main and GitHub repo URL is the URL name. So I want to replace these values. For this, I do one thing. Let me remove this value because I want to replace that value with a variable. So in the environment directories, we already configure, isn't it? So let me remove this. Now, one we have different possibilities are there to directly execute the code. So directly execute in the sense I can simply pointing this variable here as a branch name and I can copy and I can place inside the URL key. But as said in the beginning, inside the script section is completely used for the local variables. Local variables are the variables which is available to the particular script only. So if you want to perform some Git level like preview level operations, you need to open a script tag. Within that, we can declare local in the sense we can access within the specific steps only. Okay. So now, uh, sir, what you are trying to explain? Very simple. So once I declare the global variables, I want to access these values inside the script. How can I you know that env is a object that env is going to pointing to the which repository URL github underscore repo underscore URL. This is the variable value and that value is going to store into one variable called as a repo URL. So repo URL is of my variable name. But this is what type of data type? Suppose here within the double quotes you mention like double quotes your URL name. That variable is pointing to the particular value. That value is pointing to git underscore repo URL. So git underscore repo URL is a variable that is accessible through env. So this value will be stored into this another variable called repo URL, right? That movement, this variable is defined as a what? That's what I do one thing inside the script section. I want to declare one data type called the string. So string, my variable name is repo URL. That URL is going to hold value which is accessed through env object. What is our value? What is a variable? Git underscore repo underscore URL. So this variable I'm going to store with this one using env object. Now declare another object like a string, the branch, the branch name is equal to env dot branch underscore name. So here string repo URL, string branch name is a two custom local variables of type string. Now string is different, and in the previous record session we discussed about G string. Right now I'm applying the normal string. So string is different and G string is different. String in the sense very simple. We store some characters, right? Such characters we are going to replace. For example, here name is what? The name is what? Directly I'm using branch name, branch name, branch name. And here, so in the URL you need to define a repo URL. Even try to remove this double single quotes, guys. You can slightly replace the variable. See, I never use any double quotes, brackets, like braces left and right. I'm not using the G string. This is called a normal string. That's why in the previous record session we introduced a G string data type. Now here we introduced one more simple data type called a string. There is a lot of differences between a string and a G string. So string will holds the variable, it won't perform the interpolation, but G string holds the interpolation. So we'll discuss with a simple example again in the coming sessions. But here, through this variable, through this env object, we are pointing to the global variables. Such variables we are going to refer to the local variable, which is replaced with another variable called the repo URL. In this example, repo URL and branch name are the local variables. So how to declare a local variable with a specific data type? What is the data type we use? String. So what type of data type it is? Whether it is a string, whether it is a primitive or reference, we'll discuss. There is a convention we have to use it. Okay. So hope you understand, right? Using checkout, we are going to clone the code from repository. Just apply and save it. So three things we discussed. One is how to use the checkout DSL statement, how to clone the public repository. While cloning the public repository, how we are declared the global and local variables, and how to differentiate the global and local variables. And once you declare the variable in the global, how to access inside the script section, how the script section is going to maintain the local variables, how the local variables are pointing to the global variables. So, and we here we introduce one small basic data type called as a string. String is not a primitive data type. String is a reference data type. That's why after completion of this series for handling the Jenkins environment variables, then I can start what is a primitive data types and reference data types. We'll discuss with the real-time example. Go back and go and click on build now. Now see, I got the success. Go there. So this is very simple. So in the previous statement, we use get. Now we use checkout. The major differences between the checkout and get is, so here checkout will work for multiple version controlling like a GitHub. You can also work with a Bitbucket. You can also work with a GitLab, right? But whereas a Git DSL statement can work with only Git. Git. So Git VCS, right? Version controlling system. So, and this checkout has a three statements. One is a what? Git SCM class. Second one is a branches. The third one is extensions. We'll discuss heavily. Finally, user remote configs. These are the four parameters we used. Go back and see the console output. So hope we successfully completed the second technique to interact with your environment variables, right? How to set the environment variables inside the pipeline script at the job level. In the job level, our target is on the global. So how can we say global within the job? Very simple, environment directives. Environment directives can be placed in the global level as well as the stage level. That's why we are configure the variable inside the global and we access such values inside the local through uh, through script block, and also demonstrated how to clone the public repository using the checkout. So checkout, and we discussed instead of using the interpolation how I simply replace the variable, like that's a string var is equal to value. Very simple. We are not used something like dollar and bracket and left and right bracket, right? This is we never use it. So that's why I simply replace the value. Go and see. Yeah, started as admin, running on the Jenkins workspace. My repository is a clone code from public repository, and we clone the repository successfully. And finally, I get the success. So That's all for this demo or session. The next part, subpart, will concentrate on how to clone the private repositories using HTTPS, and also how to clone the private repositories using SSH, and also how to clone the private repository using GitHub CLI. So hope you understand. So very simple, and just we demonstrated how to check out the code from the GitHub using checkout DSL statement. There we elaborated the variable exploration and placed in two sections, global and local, and also we introduce a string data type, and we are not introduce the interpolation. We try to replace the value using string object, and also we detail explain about the checkout DSL statement. One is a class called GitSCM, branches, extensions, user remotes. If you deeply dive, you will get confused. We'll come back and we'll discuss later with the complex data types. Until that, see you in the next session. Thank you.